as two brown folks, two colored folks, we are on time. Brown people time, colored people time, it's all the same thing. We're here. But Anusha, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for celebrating Marigold with me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Just for the folks that don't know, when exactly does Marigold a video? I think the audio is out already, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so the record is out. It came out on October 13th, which is an auspicious day according to my mom. So I put it out on October 13th, just in time for Diwali season.
Please tell us, who are you?
I grew up in California in the Bay Area. My parents immigrated here in the late 80s, early 90s, and I'm the firstborn kid. And so because of that, and my parents were really, really tied to their culture and their families back in India, they wanted to pass down those traditions and put me in music classes from a very young age in South Indian classical, which is Carnatic music. So going to Carnatic classes twice a week from the age of 3, going to Bala Vihar, going to a bunch of cultural events. I was surrounded by my extended families, I call it my adopted family, which were all Tamil people, South Indians in the Bay Area and the East Bay Area. So that's where, I grew up, but I also grew up in this small town called Danville, which in and of itself is very not diverse. I was one out of 5 kids of color growing up pretty much from ages 1 to 18. If you go one town over, there was a lot of, Desi people, a lot of people of color there. So anyway, that's kind of the classic kind of growing up in America, and you have these two identities. You kind of have your Indian Desi brown community that you tap into, or I'm speaking Tamil full time at home, and then I go to school and then I'm surrounded by American culture, or what I knew as white culture, basically, right? And so I had these kind of two identities, but as I kind of grew up and went to college, I went to UC Davis, I started to blend those two things together and be these don't need to be disparate parts of my identity. They can be merged together to be me, to be Anusha. So that's my evolution. And again, my music journey started in Carnatic music, but I started to explore listening to pop music, listening to R&B music, just American cultural music in middle school and high school. And my dad was a huge Michael Jackson fan, huge Whitney Houston fan, huge Mariah fan, as well as huge A.R. Rahman fan, Ilayaraja, and all these great film composers.
How difficult or how easy or how does that flow? I mean, I know you have best of both worlds because you grew up like that, right? So whether it was Carnatic music or listening to pop music, how does that transform onto a record, and then visualizing, showcasing the story, telling, showing that to the audience through a visual?
I think though, translating that into art and music, it felt daunting in a sense, right? I always felt I had to kind of choose between one or two. I'm going to make the pop and B record, or I'm going to do Carnatic. How do I blend those two? Because the main question is, how do I do this authentically, right? Correct. How do I do this with integrity? How do I do this so that it honors all of the things and it doesn't dumb down or water down,
exactly where I was going. Perfect. Yes.
The soulful art form of Carnatic music, because Carnatic music is it's of worship. It's used in Hindu culture. It's a very sacred thing, though. I don't always pull from that, but I recognize and want to honor the soul. So I think what it took was just the perfect combination of the collaborators I was working with. When you're making a song and you're making a record, it's not just, for me, it's not just me sitting in a room creating it all by myself and translating the genius from my brain to the computer into the mic. It was actually just a beautiful collaboration of Jonathan Singletary, who's the amazing producer and songwriter on this project, and Lydia Samuel, who's an amazing artist and songwriter, who's also Malayali Christian. And all of us are people of color. All of us come from very rich cultures and heritages. And so we just started sharing music that we really loved. Lydia and I shared records of songs that we loved growing up. And we were all just yes, let's go for it. And it was just a pure flow. We weren't we have to make this kind of record. We have to put the sargams in there. And we have to do all these things. It was just let's just see what feels good.
Talking about, I was just going to ask you in terms of how does one kind of, get healed or gets that strength from this particular music video track. You answered that a little bit in a way where you said, don't be afraid, Can you kind of shed some more light on that, please?
One thing I want to be really cognizant of is I'm not always this like really glowy, smiley person all the time. You know, I deal with like
Stay, keep,
mental
keep
health
it, keep it.
issues. Yeah, you know, and it's like this is like, you know, what I'm trying to like approach most of my life because I love being this way. This
Yes.
isn't a farce or like a face. This is just like how I feel right now. But there are moments in my life where I like feel like I'm in a dark place where I don't maybe like
Mm-hmm.
value myself as highly, or I just am confused or I'm a little bit lost. And so with Marigold, I think it just shows like sometimes you have to go through the darkness in order to find your light, right? I think that, and that's what I think, especially the visual on the film is meaning to represent. You know, I start off like, you know, in the forest, afraid of even looking at the camera completely. It's very shaky movements,
Mm-hmm.
and what Lydia sees is like, or from the field, she's already kind of in the light. She sees and recognizes me, and instead of ignoring me, she's like, I need to go find her. And then, you know, she's like singing to me and I'm hearing her. And it's my choice to also follow that voice, right? It's my choice to be like, there is light, there is hope. Maybe I should explore it.
How did you come up with the title? And of course, Marigold is Gende Ka Fool. Also, you'll see it the wedding season a lot, right? Beautiful bridal.
Yes.
Where did the concept of the title come from?
I came from, you know, a few different places. One of the ones that you touched on, it was actually, we had a moment when Jonathan, Lydia, and I were like talking, like, you know, sometimes you look through life with like rose-colored lenses, right? Like that's like
Yes,
a
yes.
saying. And we love roses, but then somehow I just thought, like, what about like a marigold lens? You know, just because like
Mm.
that color was, you know, like sticking out in my brain. Obviously,
Sure.
there's a lot of strong cultural like ties to
Mm-hmm.
marigolds. With wedding season, I literally just went to a Diwali
Mm-hmm.
party where my friend had
Absolutely.
decked out her house in like
Right.
marigold garlands. And it's just like it's a flower of celebration of new journeys and new beginnings, right, in our culture. But there's also ties to like Latin culture and Spanish
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
culture with marigolds, and I just think that it's a unique flower that's bright, and it also has, you know, such a wonderful unique scent to it. But that's kind of where came up with marigold, like the cultural tie, and also like, you know, the color of it.
Thank you for creating this
Thank you.
one more time. I do want to touch upon the fact that Outer Voice Records, how did this collaboration happen?
It came about honestly because of an Instagram DM,
Hey, perfect.
which is really cool being able to connect. You know, I think we had been in concentric circles for a while. I'm like
Sure.
quite involved with like the South Asian music community. I work with Ravi Ray Audio, who, you know, is a post production audio company. Also from a friend who like left a corporate job to start a business, and I was like, and he was looking for help, so I joined, and we put on a fellowship this last year to help amplify, you know, independent artists who's like working from home who like wants to put a record out. And you know, we were looking for community partners. Outer Voice Records and Regular Audio, we conjoined hands to put on this fellowship. And so that's when I heard about them on my radar. And then as you know, we had just filmed the film, and the production of the song was like coming to an end. And I was just thinking, like, I could release this independently, and this could go off, and that could be awesome. But I just want to see, like, are there any like
Sure.
collaborators like in the South Asian music space that could be down? And so I just DM'd them, and I just said, hey, I would love to connect with you. Like, we'd love to show you this you know, sneak peek of this EP. Would you be interested? And then I think James responded through the Outer Voice account and just was like, hey, you've actually been on our radar. You and Lydia actually have been on our radar. We'd love to chat and connect.
Marigold, the EP, every single month, one single, and then of course the whole EP out January 2023. But the video's out now, and of course the audio record is out now as well. Before we do let you go, we would love to hear your favorite part of Marigold.
Let the rain wash away the gray, grow your colors never golden rays, don't you hide away, show your colors marigold. You and me could be immortal beings. You mean more to me than you know. Marigold, 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 marigold.